really.
Yeah.
So the other thing about Grant, he talks about, which I think is so important, is in working or redirecting or de-escalating a situation with someone, is really making sure that there's really clear rules and boundaries, because he talks about the speed limit. And you can go 55, but you have to go the speed limit.
Yeah.
And he finds comfort in a lot of individuals who find the world very chaotic, because you could deal with sensory input and communication challenges. It's very challenging and hard and difficult, that if you give me some rules, boundaries, structure, I'm much more able to get through the day and to be a part of society. So give me those rules, give me the guidelines. How should I act? How should I be?
But then again, I mean, the thing about that is, yeah, we need to follow rules. They're there for a reason. But if you're kind of like a smart guy like I am, you're gonna find a loophole.
Oh yeah, and you do.
You know what I mean? Like, not just me. I mean, even at work.
I know.
Not just here, but my other job. You know, and my boss, thank God, is pretty laid back about, okay, you can do it your way, just get it done. You know?
Yeah, but I mean, absolutely, because we
Yeah.
all have our own way of doing stuff.
Yeah, my boss is great. My boss is like, well, I would do it this way, and if I do it another way, she's like, done. If it works, do it your way. I don't care anymore. You know?
Right. So the other thing about Grant, and I think this is real important as well, is the disclosure piece.
Yeah.
Not being sure whether to disclose his autism or not. And that's really a personal choice. He's an adult, he can make that decision. One of the things that we do talk about, though, is in the workplace or in college or in your medical situation, it may be helpful to others to support you better if they did know that, if you were having issues.
Yeah, but there is from my perspective, and I assume from Grant's perspective as well, it scares the hell out of me sometimes, not all the time, but if I'm meeting somebody new, like, don't worry, you guys are totally safe, I'm familiar, feel safe around, but like, if I'm meeting somebody new and they're like, hey, oh God, do I really want to tell them, 9 times out of 10 they're cool with it, like always, but there's that little part of my brain that goes, oh no, what if they I want to say shun you, but...
Or judge you?
Judge,
maybe, or
yeah, like, oh God, he's retarded. Yeah, whatever, I hate using that word, but it's a stigma, there really is still stigmas around groups of people.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, thanks, Tom.
Autistic lives matter.
So I'm gonna...
No.
I'm going to move on to
Yeah.
autism and health. I think we talked about this. The reason I really like to talk about this is because, when Eric was little, and even now, when we're going to the hospital or to a doctor or any kind of healthcare provider, and I'm struggling to try to figure out what's wrong with him, why he's crying, why he's hitting himself, I don't know what to suggest, except let's try these things, because these are very common areas of health related to autism, and this is based on some compilation of studies, and that's why I share this, because as a professional, if you have a client with autism, mom's not able to, or dad's not able to explain to you, these are the symptoms, I don't know, he's hitting his head, he's hitting his whatever. We need to figure out, these might be the first things you think about, okay? For example, the constipation and GI issues. Individuals with autism are 8 times more likely to have one or more chronic GI conditions. And think about it. Think of the diets we put our kids on and the medications our kids are on. And the diets, not just that we put them on, but when Eric was little, he would only eat 3 things: pizza, chicken, and French fries. I mean, that's the only thing you could get in his body. Now he eats everything. And it's not even like we tried it. He learned to like new foods. So he's really good at eating all kinds of foods. But that's a problem, and it's still a problem with him today. Epilepsy, 20 to 30% more likely in autism compared to 1 to 2% of the typical population, and the onset is usually pre-K as well as puberty. Sleep and feeding, about 50% of individuals with autism have sleep issues, and challenges with food, whether it's textural, there's smell, all kinds of things about food do affect somebody's, and the feeding clinics that we have here in our state are wonderful, and a lot of families I know use them. So that's really a great thing. The sleep is really a problem as well. When Eric's little, he could live on 2 hours of sleep a night and be quite refreshed, but you know, the rest of the family wasn't. But you had to be awake because you can't have a 3-year-old running around at 2 a.m. It just wasn't healthy, or you know, didn't work. So we sort of tag teamed who was going to get to stay up and who got to sleep. But eventually we were able to work with that.
I'm one of those people who has trouble sleeping, but here's the weird thing. Not that I have trouble falling into sleep, I have trouble staying asleep, you know, because like I'll wake up at like 2 in the morning, like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, whatever. And I look down, it's like 3 a.m. I'm like, oh, I can't sleep. Eventually I do fall back asleep, but it drives me insane. Like, I can't get up, I can't move, I can't get a drink, you know, I can't do anything because I live with my parents. I don't want to wake them up and get them ticked off at me. What are you doing up? You know?
All right,
Yeah.
so mental illness, 54 to 70%. Individuals with autism have that likelihood of having a comorbid condition, whether it's anxiety, ADHD, things like that.
Yeah.
Life expectancy is, according to these studies, and I'd like to see a more current study, honestly, about that, but it said it's half that of the typical population, which is frightening because Eric's 30, you know, it makes me nervous. But it's not necessarily because they are less healthy or they're more fragile. It's really because a lot of times they don't communicate what's bothering them.
Yeah.
And you know, and we really can't detect what it is if they can't tell us what's wrong with them. And so oftentimes then they might attribute the behavior to autism when in fact the behavior might be a sign to us that there's something else or deeper wrong. So that's the challenge.
Yeah, and I'm going to interject, because it's on my notes, I'm going to say one thing with the life expectancy. I think, again, I'm with Trish on this. I would love to see an updated version of this, but I don't want to say experience, from my personal opinion, the mental illness and the life expectancy kind of intertwine with each other because, let's think about this, let's be real. You're nonverbal, you have depression, anxiety, you can't communicate, I feel sad, or I'm nervous, I can't do this. Here's where it gets dark.
But Tom, even if you're verbal, you
Even
can have all that struggle.
Even if you are verbal, I'm not debating that, but I'm just saying, I have anxiety, I have depression, I have ADHD, I have all these comorbidities.
So what's the stat?
9 times more likely to commit suicide than the general population.
Right.
And that's sad, because we've
it's
lost,
very sad.
I don't want to jump to conclusions, but like, we've lost a couple of people just within the past decade that's like, you know, Stephen Hawking, Steve Jobs, you know, all these people who were, Robin Williams, they were thought to have some form of disability in hindsight, or in the aftermath, but again, we may never know because they're not here with us.
So, all right, I'm moving on. I know I've shown you this model, and I'm just going to remind you, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, just remind you that the terminology